States. Because if that's the case, they could push me out of any of these countries because they are here. They're everywhere, you know? I feel like white people shouldn't even have passports.
Wow, can you imagine if a white person said that? Damn, the pandemonium that would ensue.
They don't want to sell to us!
Well, I'm back, and I'm not going to make this intro long because the video itself is long, but I want to say that this is the first time I agree with SJWs about race. Like seriously, it's going to get rid of all the bitching and whining. Oh, and just one quick note, Vice News isn't involved in this group, they're just interviewing them and even asked them some good questions.
This is like heaven right now.
Yeah.
Alexis Bromley is from Nebraska. She needed a break from white people.
I really hope it's a permanent break.
In Omaha, it's very segregated. It can be very isolating if you're a person of color.
Do I really have to bring up demographics on everything? 86% of people in Nebraska are white. It is basically a homogenous society. I guess you really want to be like Aquila, obviously.
More diversity, like less white people.
It's hard in Nebraska because it's a red state. And so you just don't know who you interact with on a daily basis, if they believe that you're lesser, if you're inferior, and how that in turn can affect me.
As you can see, the racist part is already kicking in. If you are white, you see other races as beneath you. Well, fear not, Aquila has the solution.
Like less white people.
She says the current political climate has only made these feelings worse. So she decided to go on a Women of Color healing retreat in Costa Rica.
Hi, such beautiful smiles.
Okay, I'll try not to stop the video off too often, but seriously, if you need to leave the country just to get the feeling that you need to get away from a certain group of people, you're dumb as fuck.
Thank you guys so much for coming. My blackness is bold.
My blackness is uninhibited.
My blackness is strength.
The idea is simple. For 10 days, black women come together to eat vegan food, meditate, do yoga.
The breath in is the reminder that we are safe.
Now I need to stop this here because it is really dumb. Because according to a 2016 UN estimation, 83% of the people in Costa Rica are white, while the black population is around 7%. Let me also state that the murder rate is 12.1 per 100,000 inhabitants. This was last calculated less than a year ago, and it is increasing. You didn't exactly choose a better spot.
And to discuss the frustrations of being black in America.
It's like a mental game all the time, and I'm in these spaces where, you know, constantly getting poked and prodded. Oh, let me touch your hair. Oh, you're really pretty for a black girl.
When I lived in Toronto, I never knew anyone who wanted to touch black people's hair. They really need to stop using that argument. And you're pretty? How is that offensive? They're giving you a compliment.
Black people don't exercise. Black people don't hike. People are automatically gonna have this perception of me before I even open my mouth.
So many people's ideologies are being validated that don't see us as human, that don't see us as people.
And whose fault is it that you don't exercise or do whatever? Don't try to blame that on us. Oh, and by the way, stop demonizing white people and maybe we will see you as humans.
This retreat is one of more than a dozen black-owned travel groups, marketing trips specifically to people who look like Alexis. In the few years that most of these companies have been open, more and more clients are calling them up. At least 5 say they've seen a spike in interest coinciding with Trump's election.
The idea of black women reclaiming control over their own mind, body, and spirit is exactly what's needed to survive in a system that constantly tells us that our wellness isn't important. We stopped taking care of ourselves because we were taught, you don't matter.
No, for the love of God. This video was uploaded in February 2018. Are they still boasting about how they're oppressed? Can any black person watching this please explain what is dragging them down?
Hi, I'm your first black girlfriend.
No, you're not.
The retreat is the brainchild of Andrea X, a former Brooklynite turned expat.
I left the United States because I was sick of gentrification, racism, just dealing with being this black woman trying to figure it out there.
It was 2014, and she'd just lost her job as a healthcare facilitator. What started off as a vacation in Costa Rica became her entire new life. She used all of her personal savings to form this retreat.
We needed a safe space that was outside in the United States to hold certain conversations and just to heal. I don't think that we can do that in the United States. I think that we're suffering and suffocating and just dying every single day trying to survive there.
Yeah.
Now I have to respond to this. First of all, I have to say I'm glad to see this lady has left a Western country. Congratulations, Andrea, you just became the first person to enter my worthy opponent list. I hope more follow soon. In all seriousness, if you really don't like white people, just don't live among us. There are other places that would be better off for you. Now, I know I've already stated that black people are not oppressed, so I don't need to repeat it, but you're against gentrification, making ghettos safer. I mean, yes, it gets a little more expensive. Would you rather live in a shooting zone?
And not every woman can afford to come out to Costa Rica. What can we do for the racism they experience, for women who can't afford to be part of your retreat?
I think that it's important for people in the United States, Black and POC people, to start forming their own spaces there.
Well, look at that.
What happened to segregation is wrong. You are advocating the same thing. But personally, I would create divisions between us. It'll at least keep the peace.
I'm triggered! Easier said than done. White Americans find themselves in white-only meetings and places all the time, without even trying or noticing. When black people want a break from feeling like a minority, they often have to make an effort. Alexis made the effort, and it cost her $2,222. But for her and several other women, that's a reasonable price to pay for a retreat that bans white people.
Would having white people on this trip ruin it?
I don't think we will be as open and as honest as we are with the group that we're in now.
Yeah. Do you all feel like you've been stereotyped?
One thing I always got is you're so well spoken, and I don't think people understand how insulting that is.
You're insulted by a compliment? Did I miss something?
What else would you expect from me?
Curious if it's been no different for you since
it was
the election of President Trump?
For Black, we knew that racism has been around, but it's a bit more in our face now. It's made me have to pivot my interactions with people and people who actually support Trump. Yeah. I can't trust you on friendship level, family level, any level if you actually are supporting someone that, is completely racist.
Is some of that anxiety what you feel you need to heal from here?
We're looking for ways to coping mechanisms, and ways to take care of ourselves because we're not on the agenda.
I myself am not a Trump fan, but saying that you can't be close to someone because of something like that is really shitty. You're basically saying that people don't have the right to their political beliefs. Besides, in the 1 year that Trump has been in office, what exactly has he done that is racist?
Do you feel like you've increasingly lost the ability to see any shot at a relationship with white people?
Every time I have a conversation with them, I just pick up on certain things that they say, whatever. I pick up on the microaggressions, the passive aggressiveness. I pick up on it.
And what are these signs? It seems to me that it's more about your views on us.
I decided one day to just eliminate white people from my personal life. And ever since then, my life has been way more breezy.
Do you think it's at all possible that the fact that white racism, white people have sort of made you leave the U.S., start your whole life over somewhere else, feel the need to avoid them, means that they've won?
They didn't push me out the United States. Because if that's the case, they could push me out of any of these countries because they are here. They're everywhere. I feel like white people shouldn't even have passports because they've done enough, especially white Americans. Leave them in the United States. They do not need to come here. They
should be even able to travel here.
They need to stay in the United States.
But what if we want to see other white countries like Europe or Australia? What the hell? You claim that you are enslaved, and yet you want to do that to white people.
Until now you have become the very thing you swore to destroy.
To a white person who's doing their best to be the best white person they can be.
I have no tips for a white person. My tip to white people is to let us have our space, let us have our room, and go hang out with other white people. We're okay. You've done enough damage.
That can actually be arranged. Here's my tip to you. Leave Western countries, don't live with us, and stay in your own lands. Yes, we'll be segregated, but at least it'll keep the peace. Because Andrea has already done exactly that, I'm happy to see this coming into effect. Hence, you're the first person on my worthy opponent list.
Lokaha samasta sukino bhavantu. This retreat, much to Andrea's dismay, is held at a white-owned resort. That doesn't bother the retreat participants. They haven't cut white people out full-time. But 20 minutes down the road, Andrea and a business partner have quietly invested nearly $100,000 to build up their own private retreat space.
This is where we'll have the workshops.
Is this just like a long con to start building your own Black nation out in the middle of Costa Rica?
It is. It is.
Starting with yoga. Yeah. Next is going to be like a mini government.
Where are the SJWs now?
I don't want to have a mini government, but at the same time, it will be a community of just like Black people living here.
What would you say to someone who's like, you know, it's nice as this sounds like paradise for Black people. In some ways, like it's motivated by the same hate that white people who want to create white nations and white spaces have?
I would say it doesn't have anything to do with them.
Look at her avoiding the question. Yes, it does have to do with us. You just said that the whole purpose of the resort was to get away from white people.
This is about us healing our community.
Is it practical to create a Black nation in the middle of a jungle? Or to chase all white people off your property? Probably not, and most Black people don't want to do that. But the feelings of isolation that drove Andrea to build her own community aren't that different from what drove Alexis to this retreat in the first place. Andrea has completely given up on the U.S.
I don't blame her. I have been places outside of the U.S. where I have felt more at home and more included than I have ever in my community.
Is that an upsetting thing? You know, you say it with like this serene face, but to like go visit somewhere that you're not a citizen of and feel more at home than you do in your own country.
Yeah, that's reality. Unfortunately, that's the reality of our country.
Well, that's the end of the video. I'd like to wish Alexis the best of luck. I mean, I actually support this little Black ethnostate as long as it's outside the West. But what I don't get is how come social justice warriors aren't all triggered over that? But in any case, this video pretty much marks a milestone for me.